Have you ever had that moment where you have like this really clear idea in your head?
Yeah.
Maybe you're in a work meeting and you want to make a suggestion.
Right.
Or you're, just chatting with friends about the latest movie that's out that everyone's talking about.
Uh-huh.
And when you go to explain it, in English, it just doesn't quite land the way that you intended.
Yeah.
You know,
It's the worst.
you might find yourself like circling around the point or
Right.
over-explaining things.
Exactly.
And just not feeling as sure of yourself as you maybe should.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? A lot of times it actually has less to do with your overall English level
I think so.
and more to do with how you're actually structuring your thoughts.
Uh-huh.
It's all about using the right, connections between your ideas.
Interesting.
Those small but mighty words that really help to bridge your sentences together.
They're so important.
Yeah. And, that's exactly what we're diving deep into today.
Also.
We're going to be exploring the power of connectors.
Okay.
These are like the secret sauce to making your opinions sound so much more confident and professional.
I like that secret sauce.
They're the key
Yeah.
to explaining why you think what you think without all of that hesitant rambling.
Uh-huh.
So by the end of this deep dive,
Yeah.
you're going to have a much clearer grasp on a really simple but effective framework
Okay.
for sharing your opinions smoothly.
I like it.
And even more importantly, you'll understand how to strategically use these connectors
Yeah.
to really boost your confidence when you're expressing yourself,
Right.
whether you're, in casual conversation or a more formal professional setting.
I think that's something that everybody wants.
Totally.
More confidence in speaking,
Yeah, for sure.
especially in a different language.
Yeah.
It can be really scary sometimes.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that we're talking about this today.
So our goal today
Yes.
is to give you this practical skill.
Okay.
We're going to start by looking at this natural three-part structure that English speakers often use when they're sharing their views.
Got it.
And then we're going to zoom in on different categories
Yeah.
of these professional connectors, which are really key
Okay.
to articulating the why behind your opinions.
I love it.
So this three-part framework is really like the backbone.
Okay.
First, you state your opinion directly and confidently.
Yeah.
Second, you explain your reasoning.
Uh-huh.
And this is where our connectors become like so valuable.
Right.
And then finally,
Okay.
you kind of wrap up your thought
Okay.
with a concluding statement
Got it.
or maybe a question
Okay.
to invite others into the discussion.
I like that. Bring people in.
Exactly.
Get that conversation going.
So step one
Okay.
is all about putting your opinion out there clearly,
Uh-huh.
using those confident sentence starters.
What kind of sentence starters are we talking?
I believe, I think I would say, feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really just about being direct about where you stand.
Right.
But an opinion without any support
Mm-hmm.
is really just a statement.
Yeah, you got to back it up with
Right.
something.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's just an empty statement.
So that's why step two is so crucial.
Okay.
You need to actually explain why you hold that view.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where our connectors that we're going to be focusing on today really come into play.
Got it.
They're the tools that allow you to build that logical bridge
Mm-hmm.
between your opinion
Okay.
and your reasoning.
Right.
And we're going to be looking at several different types
Yeah.
that help you do just that.
I'm excited.
And then step three is all about bringing your thought to a nice natural close.
Okay.
You might do this by briefly restating your main point, or maybe by asking a question like,
Like what?
what are your thoughts on this? Or what do you think about this? Or
Yeah.
what's your take?
Mm-hmm.
Something like
I
that.
like it.
It just provides a sense of completion.
Okay.
And it can really encourage
Uh-huh.
a more dynamic conversation.
For sure.
So let's take a look at a couple of examples
Yeah.
to really see how this plays out in real life.
Okay.
So imagine you're talking about that new superhero movie that's out.
Okay.
You might say something like,
Uh-huh.
I thought the latest installment was fantastic
Okay.
because the storyline was really original and the special effects were groundbreaking.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Oh, I love that.
Right.
You stated your opinion.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you gave your reasons
Right.
because of the storyline and the special effects.
Yeah.
And then you brought other people into the conversation
Right.
by asking what they thought.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
You have the clear opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You have the because
Right.
connecting to the reason.
Connecting everything together.
Yeah.
Love it.
And then you have that open question at the end.
Uh-huh.
It just flows so naturally.
Totally.
Now,
Yeah.
in a professional context,
Okay.
it might sound something like this.
Uh-huh.
I think we should explore a different marketing strategy.
Uh-huh.
Since our current approach isn't yielding the results that we expected,
Okay.
what's your perspective on this?
Ooh, I like that one too.
Right.
Very professional.
Again, you see that opinion,
Yeah.
explore a different strategy.
Okay.
You have that connector.
Yeah.
Six, introducing that reasoning.
Mm-hmm.
The current approach isn't working.
It's not working.
And then a question inviting input.
Yeah.
So you can really hear how using that structure, along with those connector words, instantly makes your ideas feel more structured,
Yes.
more persuasive,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
It elevates your opinion from just like a personal feeling
Mm-hmm.
to this well-supported point.
Totally.
Exactly.
I love that.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into these essential connectors. Our first category
Yes.
is focusing on connectors
Uh-huh.
that explain the cause
Okay.
or the reason behind your opinion.
Got it.
These are the words
Mm-hmm.
that help answer that fundamental question of why do you think that?
Why do I think that?
Exactly.
Okay.
So the most common one here,
Mm-hmm.
the real go-to
Yeah.
is because.
Because?
It's so simple.
Uh-huh.
It just directly states for this reason.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the first connectors that we all learn.
Yeah. Probably when we're kids.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we have since.
Since.
Now, since also indicates a reason,
Uh-huh.
but it often suggests
Okay.
that the reason is already understood
Yeah.
or is pretty obvious
Yeah.
to the person you're talking to.
Right.
It kind of implies like a degree of shared knowledge
Mm-hmm.
of the cause.
I see.
So like saying something like,
Give me an example.
since it's such a beautiful day, maybe we should eat outside.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, the nice weather is pretty apparent.
Yeah, we both know it's nice out.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we also have due to
Okay.
and because of.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these are very similar in meaning to because,
Okay.
but due to tends to be a little bit more formal.
Okay.
Whereas because of is very common in everyday conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Grammatically, they function very similarly
Okay.
in that they're usually followed by a noun
Okay.
or a noun phrase.
Got it.
So you might say,
Mm-hmm.
my flight was delayed due to the bad weather,
Okay.
or the event was postponed because of unforeseen circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then we also have as,
As.
which can also act as a connector for
Okay.
cause or reason,
Uh-huh.
often with like a slight emphasis on the consequence or the result
Okay.
of the situation.
Give me an example.
So imagine saying,
Mm-hmm.
as the main speaker was delayed,
Okay.
we decided to start with the Q&A session. So the speaker being late is the reason
Right.
for the consequence
Oh.
of starting with the Q&A.
Okay. I see.
Now,
I don't
we've
know.
talked about,
Uh-huh.
several of these,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of them have pretty similar meanings.
You do.
It could feel a little overwhelming
Totally.
trying to remember, like,
Uh-huh.
when to use which one.
Right, because sometimes there's not a huge difference between them.
Exactly.
Right.
And English speakers do tend to
Huh.
vary their vocabulary
They do.
to make their speech more interesting.
Right. And to, sound a little bit more natural
Exactly.
and not like a robot repeating the same words all the time.
But don't feel like you need to master all of these,
Right.
like,
No.
immediately.
Don't worry about it.
A really practical approach
Yeah.
is to maybe
Yeah.
pick like one or two new connectors
Mm-hmm.
that you're not as familiar with
Okay.
and just actively try to use them in your conversations, in your writing.
I love that.
And then once you feel comfortable with those,
Mm-hmm.
you can gradually expand your repertoire.
Yeah. Don't try and do everything at once.
Exactly.
One step at a time.
So just to do like a really quick recap
Okay.
on these cause connectors,
Yeah.
we have because,
Yeah.
since, due
Got
to,
to.
because of,
Because.
as.
Uh,
Now, there's a really important grammatical distinction to keep in mind,
Okay. What is it?
especially between due to and because,
Okay.
or because of,
Uh-huh.
due to,
Okay.
and because of,
Mm-hmm.
are generally followed by a noun, like traffic, the
Mhm.
storm,
Right.
a misunderstanding,
Okay.
something like that.
Got it.
However, because can be followed by a full clause,
Okay.
meaning like a subject and a verb.
Okay. Yeah. That's a key difference.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So give me an example of something that people might mess up.
So it would be grammatically incorrect
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say,
The game was canceled due to it was raining, right?
Uh-huh.
Due to should be followed by a noun phrase.
Oh, okay.
So you would say,
Uh-huh.
the game was canceled due to the rain.
The rain.
Right.
Got it.
The correct way to use because
Yeah.
in that context would be,
Correct.
the game was canceled because it was raining.
Uh-huh.
Where it was raining is a complete clause
Right.
with a subject and a verb.
Okay.
It's a subtle but important
Yeah.
grammatical point
It is.
that can make your English sound more polished.
Uh-huh.
So noun after, due to, and because of,
Okay.
but a full sentence structure after because. That's a good one to keep in mind.
It is.
Now,
Yeah.
you also mentioned connectors
What about them?
for result within this first category.
Okay.
So these tell us what happened
Mm-hmm.
as a consequence of something else.
Okay. Yeah, so like the outcome or
Right.
result.
Exactly.
Okay.
So these connectors really help you express that. The outcome or the consequence
Okay.
of a particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
Two common ones are so,
So.
and which is why
Which is
now
why
we use so all the time.
all the time.
Right.
That's a good one.
Like I was really tired, so I went to bed early.
Yeah.
You know,
It makes sense.
it's that very direct link
Uh-huh.
between the cause and the effect.
I see.
And then, which is why,
Which is why.
is another great connector to explain a reason.
Okay.
And it actually has the flexibility
Uh-huh.
to be placed
Okay.
at either the beginning
Okay.
or the end of a sentence.
Okay. So give me an example of each one.
So you could say
Uh-huh.
the team worked incredibly hard on the presentation,
Okay.
which is why it was so well received.
Mm-hmm.
Or the presentation was so well received,
Mhm.
which is why the team was thrilled.
Yeah.
So both are grammatically correct.
Okay.
And they show the same relationship
Right.
between the hard work
Mm-hmm.
and the positive reception.
I see. Okay. And which is why.
Yeah.
What's next?
So our next category of connectors
Okay.
focuses on connectors for purpose.
Purpose.
Now, these delve a little deeper
Okay.
into explaining the why
Uh-huh.
behind decisions or actions.
Okay.
So when you're sharing what you did,
Yeah.
these connectors help you clarify your intentions.
Uh-huh.
So not just the reason why something happened,
Mm-hmm.
but the reason why someone chose to do something.
Yeah. I see.
And so it's a little bit of
It's a subtle difference.
the subtle difference.
The important.
Yeah. So three key connectors here
Okay.
are in order to,
In order to.
and so that now in
Such a
order
good-
to definitely sounds quite formal.
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't
Doesn't it?
You might hear it
When would you use in order to?
like in more official documents
Okay.
or presentations,
Right.
something like that.
So it's for more serious,
Yeah.
kind of.
It's definitely more formal, and it's generally considered, more formal.
Okay.
And it's used to really emphasize
Mm-hmm.
the specific intention behind an action.
Right.
It adds that layer of deliberateness,
I see.
and then just took it to, it feels much more common
Yeah.
in everyday spoken English
It does.
when you're explaining why you did something.
Uh-huh.
So like,
So give me those two examples side by side.
I'm taking extra courses in order to advance my career
Okay.
versus
Yeah.
I'm taking extra courses to advance my career.
Uh-huh.
It's just
It's the same meaning,
yeah,
but just a different level of formality.
exactly. And then the third connector in this category is so that.
So that,
And so that really focuses on the ultimate desired outcome or result.
okay.
It highlights the goal that you were trying to achieve
Mm-hmm.
with your action.
Okay, so like,
So you might say,
yeah,
I'm saving money diligently so that I can travel next year.
I like it.
So the emphasis here is on that future goal of taking a trip.
The goal, the end result.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I know earlier we talked about so for results.
Right.
And now we have so that for purpose.
So that,
I know they sound really similar.
they do.
So how can we easily tell them apart?
Okay.
Because I know that those can sometimes be confused.
Totally.
So let's look at a couple of examples.
Okay.
So if I say,
Uh-huh.
I took the train so that I could work during the commute.
Okay.
So that clearly indicates
Okay.
the purpose behind my choice of transportation.
Uh-huh.
It explains my intention when making that decision.
Right.
So that answers that question of why did I choose this action?
Okay.
Now, if I say, I took the train, so I arrived at the meeting on time,
Oh.
so here indicates a
Hmm.
consequence
Okay.
or a result of my action.
Okay.
Arriving on time might have been a benefit,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't necessarily
Right.
the primary reason I chose to take the train.
Yeah. So the difference is subtle. But so that is more about like
Yeah,
why you did something.
exactly.
And so is more like what happened after you did something.
Exactly.
Okay.
So one focuses on the intention behind the action.
Uh-huh.
The other focuses on a consequence
Right.
that followed the action.
Okay, I think I got it.
So we've covered cause and result,
Yes.
and now purpose.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What's our final category
Okay.
of connectors
Yeah.
that can help us express our opinions more effectively?
I'm ready.
Okay. So this final category
Yes.
is all about connectors for adding more reasons.
Okay.
So often, when you're expressing an opinion or explaining a decision,
Right.
one reason just isn't enough.
Sometimes you have like 5 reasons why you want to do something.
You might have multiple factors influencing your perspective.
Yeah.
And these connectors really help you introduce those additional points
Okay.
in a clear and organized way.
Got it.
So you're building a stronger and more well-rounded argument. Right.
This makes sense.
Because sometimes you have like a whole list of reasons why you feel a certain way.
Yeah. Who are some of these connectors?
We have several good options here.
Okay.
So another reason is a very straightforward way to introduce a second distinct reason.
Okay.
It's very clear.
Right.
It signals to the listener that you're adding a separate point. It's worth noting
Okay.
that this one
Yeah.
usually comes at the beginning of a sentence.
At the beginning, right.
So like another reason is the service at that restaurant was also excellent.
Okay.
Very clear.
Very straightforward.
Right. And then we have plus.
Plus.
Now, this is a more casual connector,
Okay.
quite common in everyday spoken English
Right.
for adding that extra point.
Okay.
It's just a very simple and direct way to say, and also,
Yeah,
like I really enjoyed the movie.
Okay.
The acting was fantastic. Plus, the soundtrack was amazing.
I like it.
Very natural and conversational.
Totally.
And then similarly, we have also,
Also?
which is very neutral
Okay.
and a very commonly used connector for
Right.
adding information. It fits well in both.
So when would you use also?
More formal and informal contexts.
Okay. So it can kind of go either way.
Exactly.
Okay.
So something like, the new software offers several key features.
Okay.
Also, it's incredibly user-friendly, you know?
Okay. I like it.
Very simple.
Yeah.
And then finally, we have on top of that.
On top of that.
Now, this connector adds a bit more emphasis
Okay.
and can be used to highlight an additional point that might even be a bit surprising or particularly significant. And like another reason is
Okay.
on top of that is generally used
Yeah.
at the beginning of a sentence.
Got it. So
So-
give me an example.
I love living in this city
Okay.
because there are so many job opportunities. On top of that, the cultural scene is incredibly vibrant. So it kind of adds that
Yeah.
extra layer of positive reinforcement. So
So just to recap,
Yeah.
these connectors.
these are your tools for providing a more comprehensive explanation when a single reason doesn't quite cover it.
Right.
So another reason is
Yeah.
plus also,
Something, so
and on top of
On
that.
top of that.
So this has been so incredibly helpful
Yeah.
in breaking down these connectors into these different categories.
It really is helpful to categorize them.
Right.
Because then you can kind of get a sense of
Yeah.
how they're used.
Yeah, it makes it much easier to understand their specific functions
Right.
and when it's best to use each one.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest problems
Right.
that English learners face is that maybe they know the word, but they don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
Or they're not confident
Exactly.
using it. So to sum everything up.
Yeah, so just to quickly summarize what we've covered.
Okay.
We looked at that 3-step structure
Right.
for sharing your opinions effectively, state your opinion clearly,
Okay.
explain your reasoning using those right connectors,
Right.
and then wrap things up with a conclusion or a question
Got it.
to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, love it.
And we explored 3 key categories of connectors. Those for explaining cause and result,
Okay.
those for indicating purpose, and those for adding more reasons
Right.
to really strengthen your point.
I love it.
Yeah.
So now for your challenge
Yeah.
to put all of this into practice, I want you to think about this.
What is it?
Why did you decide to learn English?
Oh.
In your answer, try to consciously use at least 2 different connectors that we've talked about today.
Okay, so how would you start an answer like that?
So you could start with something like, I started learning English because, or since I plan to.